Hey lovelies! Sloppy Joes are a comfort food classic that totally remind me of my childhood. So today I've partnered with Kleenex brand to bring you 3 delicious takes on Sloppy Joes that I think you guys are going to love. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the concept of a Sloppy Joe, it's almost like a deconstructed hamburger. So it's basically some ground beef that's been tossed in this really amazing sweet and tangy sauce. And they're actually super easy to make, which make them perfect for weeknight cooking. But of course, while they are totally delicious, they're also, well, a little sloppy. And by a little sloppy, I actually mean a lot sloppy. Which is why I'm so glad to have my Kleenex Gentle Clean wet wipes standing by, because they are a gentle clean for both hands and face. Plus, they're thick and strong with no harsh chemicals, making them perfect for messes like this. Now, without further ado, let's get to our classic Sloppy Joes. Now, I'm gonna get started with a little bit of oil in my skillet on the stove. I'm heating it up over medium-high heat. Once your oil is nice and hot, you can start to pile in some flavor. So I have got some onion headed into my skillet, as well as some red bell pepper. Always nice to sneak a vegetable or two into something decadent like a Sloppy Joe. Once our onion and pepper are softened, we'll go ahead and add some garlic to this. You all know how I feel about garlic. And as soon as that becomes nice and fragrant, we will add our ground beef. Now I'm using extra lean ground beef here. You could also do this with ground poultry if you wanted to, or even those veggie crumbles if you wanted to keep this recipe vegetarian. All of them are great options, but of course, ground beef is quite classic when it comes to a Sloppy Joe. We're gonna cook our ground beef, breaking it up with a spoon until it is no longer pink, and then it's time for the real magic to happen. And of course, when it comes to Sloppy Joes, the magic is in the sauce. We are gonna start by adding a combination of ketchup to our skillet. Then I've got a little bit of mustard headed in here as well, a little bit of brown sugar for sweetness, and some Worcestershire sauce, which has a really beautiful savory flavor that sort of balances everything out. We'll season this with some salt and pepper. Give this a stir and let it simmer away for between 3 and 5 minutes. So let our sauce reduce just a little bit, not too much. Of course, we want our Sloppy Joes to be nice and sloppy, but once it's reduced, those flavors will concentrate, and then we can pile this deliciousness on a hamburger bun. In my house, Sloppy Joes were a big Sunday night dinner. If my dad was cooking, he would always serve them with some pickles on the side. Super, super tasty. So there you go, guys. That's the classic Sloppy Joe. But if you want to take things one step further, you could always try my amazing bacon cheeseburger Sloppy Joes that I'm going to show you now. Once again, I've got my skillet heating up on the stove. Instead of adding oil to my skillet, I'm actually going to fry up a few slices of bacon that I've chopped up. Once your bacon is nice and crisp, it's time to just transfer it out of your pan and into the bowl. Not to worry, everyone, we will be adding this bacon back into our dish right at the end of cooking. With the remaining bacon fat, I'm going to cook up some onion that's been finely chopped. Once your onion starts to soften, almost instantly because this pan is so hot, you can go ahead and add some garlic to it as well. Once that garlic is fragrant, I'll go ahead and add my ground beef to the pan. I'm going to cook it until it is no longer pink. And then once again, I'm going to get my sauce on. This time, because we're trying to mimic the flavors of an amazing bacon cheeseburger, I'm going to be adding some classic condiments. So I've got my ketchup headed in here, some mustard, as well as my Worcestershire sauce. I'll give that a good stir and then let this simmer away once again for between 3 and 5 minutes until our liquid has reduced and those flavors have concentrated. Things are looking amazing and they are about to get better. First up, we are going to add our crispy bacon back into our skillet. We are also going to be adding some pickle. I've chopped up a bunch of dill pickles into little pieces so that every bite is going to have a bit of dill pickle in it. Finally, I'm also going to add in a bit of shredded cheddar cheese. This is magic that's happening in here. It actually smells like a burger to die for. Now this yumminess can be served, of course, just as it is on a bun, but if you want to make it extra tasty, go ahead and add some burger toppings like lettuce, tomato, a little onion, and of course, some cheese. I have a strong feeling that my husband's going to be a big fan of this one. Now you all know how much I love taking a sort of classic idea and then adding a bit of a flavor twist to it. That is the case with my next recipe. This is what I'm calling my sloppy Phil, as opposed to my Sloppy Joe, because it's actually got all the awesome flavor of a classic Philly cheesesteak, but built into a Sloppy Joe. It starts once again with a little bit of oil heating up in our skillet. And to that, I am going to add some finely sliced mushrooms. We're gonna let our mushrooms cook up until they're nice and brown. We are going to pop them out of our pan, and then we will get to building the rest of our tastiness. Now that our mushrooms are cooked and removed from our skillet, we can just get a little more oil in here, and then we can start to fire up our flavor. So I have got my onions headed into the pan first, and that is going to be followed by some green bell pepper. Of course, these are classic flavors in a traditional Philly cheesesteak. Once those are softened up, I'll add my garlic to the pan. Then it's time to go ahead and add my ground beef to the pan. Now that our ground beef is fully cooked through, we can go ahead and add our mushrooms back into the pan. It's got its Philly cheese look already. Now it's time to get saucy, and instead of ketchup in this sloppy joe, I'm actually going to be making sort of a Philly cheese gravy almost. So I'm gonna start with some beef broth. Just amp up that beef factor even more. To that, I'm going to add some steak sauce and a little bit of hot sauce. Hot sauce, as always, is optional, but always delicious. And then our last step is actually going to be adding a sprinkle of cornstarch to this. So cornstarch is just gonna help this thicken up a little bit to become more of a gravy texture. I'll stir that all together and then let it simmer away until that liquid has reduced. I have to say, this is going to be awfully delicious. It's sure to fill you up. I feel like these puns are getting awful. Am I right? And there we have some Philly beef goodness, just begging to be topped with some tasty provolone cheese. And now, my friends, since I have all these delicious sloppy joes to be enjoyed, it felt like the right day for a little bit of taste testing. And who better to do that than my lovely husband, Gregory?
What's up?
He is a little reluctant to be on camera, but decided he would make an exception for a sloppy joe taste test.
They lured me with the food.
So we have a classic, a cheeseburger, and a Philly cheesesteak sloppy joe. Are you ready?
Yes.
That is the kind of burger that I'm used to seeing Greg eat.
Right.
That's the truth. Here we go. Big bite.
Wow.
That one is filled with dill pickles and bacon, so you know it couldn't possibly be bad.
Is it? I don't know. Let me try that again.
Are you sure? You're making a bit of a mess?
Yep.
Did you get that going? I'm gonna take a bite of this one.
Wait, what are you doing? Those are supposed to be for me.
You have to feed the cook.
You specifically told me that I would get to eat these if I came. You gonna see you guys later?
He does it for the food. Save the classic one for me. Guys, I really hope you will give all 3 of these tasty recipes a try. If you do, be sure to send me a pic on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, because as always, I love seeing your kitchen creations. Thank you so much to Kleenex brand for sponsoring this video. And to get your own messy hands on some Kleenex wet wipes, you can find the link in the description box below. Finally, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe because there is lots more deliciousness where this came from.